What's up, Carmination? Welcome back to week 5 of the cash process. I had to actually think about that for a quick second, Ben, because I wasn't on last week. For the first 4 weeks of the NFL season, I've been gone for 3 of them. I'm looking forward to being around this weekend, but I was in Vegas last weekend. I was just telling you about that off the air. Great times, 5 days gone. I did miss the cash process. It felt weird. So I need to play catch up with you. I had the lowest amount of volume DFS wise for me, honestly, probably in the last 4 or 5 years, only because I couldn't make lineups past freaking Wednesday in the grand scheme of things. So how did your week go? How did the building go last week? Were there a lot of late second injuries that were affecting DFS? I was, as you know, kind of entrenched in the betting markets, being in Las Vegas last week. So tell me how your lineups went, and how the thought process went, and then what are we going to look forward to this week?
Yeah, last week was tough. There was a lot of injury news. Just a lot of ways to go, man. Like I changed my build like 15 times, like which is normally that's not how it goes for me. I try to wait till later in the week. I'll really like build out like my player pool and then I'll go from there. But there was a lot of moving parts last week. And I've dropped. Started off 2-0. I'm down 2-2, so we need to get back on the winner side here. I've gotten really unlucky the last couple weeks. I talked about it on last week's episode, the 3v3. I messed up in week 3. And then last week I picked the wrong 2v2 as well. So hopefully this luck will turn around as we head into week 5.
Hell yeah, man. I mean, we got a long season ahead, 2-2. I vividly remember a couple of years ago being 0-4. I'll never forget that. So anytime you're 2-2, like I said, I didn't play cash games last week. But I'm looking forward to get at it. So there's some things, housekeeping. Obviously, we have the projections portal loaded up on the screen for all you YouTube fam out there. Speaking of, if you guys can, for a quick nanosecond, give us a thumbs up, write a comment. Ben and I hop in the comment section as the week goes on. Anything you want to ask us, we'll jump in there. And we're obviously clearly, you see my rep, my DFS Karma Nike tee here. Head over to dfskarma.com. That's where you can find the projections portal that we're going to go through. The projections portal is a premium product. It does update throughout the week. It's proprietary ranking system and also ownership projections. That's honestly one of the most key categories and columns that I study, that Ben studies as the weeks go on, especially when making tournament lineups. Content, core plays, cheat sheets, final thoughts, everything at dfskarma.com. You can hop in the Discord chat with us as well. If you subscribe, there's a long season ahead. NBA starting, guys. Check out the MVP package link. Check that out. Bet Karma, make sure you guys head on over there. We got so much good stuff heading over there, but this is a DFS in specific podcast, so we'll talk about that another day. All right, Ben, interesting week. The one thing that sticks out to me right away is I think we have one game over the 50-point total. I kind of like it. That means points should be theoretically lower. Doesn't always mean that, but I think it's going to be a tougher week where people just can't open the game that's a total of 57.5 and pick all the players from that game. So I kind of like the setup early on. What are you looking at as far as quarterback goes? We have the projections portal open. I don't know if Sam has Trey Lance projected, if you have that in front of you. But there's definitely a couple quarterbacks that we can talk about. As always, I mean, you might as well just at least start with Dak. I don't know if that's a guy you're looking to target this week, but clearly just filtering the karma value, if you don't mind doing that, Ben. He sticks out yet again for the third week in a row in the projections portals, the number one value quarterback, based at still $6,900.
Yeah, so before I dive in here, I do want to mention if anyone thinks the Anthony curse is not real, the people in the YouTube comments last week when you weren't here said that your twin is Jimmy Garoppolo and he gets hurt. He gets hurt in that game. Like
Oh
what?
my gosh.
What is
I've
going
heard
on
that.
here?
I have heard that. I've heard that locally, actually. Pretty funny. But yes, I digress. And go ahead. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah. So I just want to get that away, but yeah, I think week 5 quarterback extremely straightforward for cash games. You have 3 guys. Kyler Murray at the top will always be in my cash game pool just because of the floor. Like I truly think he's had floor games the last 2 weeks, and he's been at 22 DK points. So he's always going to be in play just due to the floor ceiling combo. Then you have Dak Prescott, which you mentioned. He was chalky last week, had a good game. only threw for 188 yards and still managed to hit 27 DraftKings points because of his 4 passing touchdowns. That is the highest over-under of the slate, so people will be looking at that game. And then, like you said, Trey Lance, really cheap, 5,700 on the road, but the man scored. I'm a huge Trey Lance fan, as you know, especially for fantasy. He scored 20 DraftKings points in a half of football last week. If as like it seems pretty clear, he's probably going to start. We don't know that for sure, but as of Tuesday, it seems pretty likely he's going to start, and he would be a really tough fade in cash games. So weirdly enough, I've spent down at quarterback the last 2 weeks, and this is probably going to be another week that I'm under 6K on DraftKings because of Trey Lance.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is one of the first weeks. Granted, he's the guy, right? He's starting. That I feel like locked and loaded, super uber confident that I will play Trey Lance. I know there's been a couple of weeks on this podcast, and things change, right? Like it's the NFL. It's kind of like NBA in a way, Ben. I mean, I know that's not a great analogy, but Ben and I do these podcasts on Mondays, guys, if not Tuesdays. We try to get the content out early for you guys so you can start digesting things. But, as the weeks go on, news changes. I just don't see myself changing Trey Lance. I like that price tag a lot. I keep looking at it, 5,700. I can kind of do a lot with that price tag. But yeah, if you got the money, Kyle Murray every week at this point. And same with Dak. Dak looks very cheap at 6,900. Before we go to running back, we're doing a good job of it this year. Either baking in some FanDuel, we'll do FanDuel running back and wide receiver, or just game theory things. 2 things stick out to me. I really like Kirk Cousins this week, like a lot. He ironically projects second in our karma value, and he's not like the sexiest quarterback DFS wise, in our population, our ecosystem. He's only a few $100s cheaper than Dak. My guess is everybody will pay for Dak. And then also, yes, I'm going to drink the Kool-Aid, Ben. I'm sorry, but I might have Baker in one of my main lineups this week. I just think he is. Look, 5,500. Nobody will even look. Nobody will even physically see him on the app. They're going to look at 5,700. They're going to play Trey Lance. But then there's Baker, who's you could probably see him at 55 because nobody else is there except Mac Jones. And I just think that's super cheap. It's a pivot. That game could get interesting. That Chargers-Browns game is either going to be a defensive showstop by both teams or both teams are going to score a ton of points. I don't really know what's going to happen. But anyways,
Yeah,
let's go running back.
I'm not trying to, no homerism. I actually think that could be the game of the year, at least so far. 2 really good coaches, 2 really good teams. Chargers have the edge in quarterback, but I think that's going to be a really good game, to be quite honest.
I did see Baker at Giant Eagle yesterday, so we'll just preface that.
Start the narrative.
So the narrative is starting. I said what up to him. He didn't say hi back, but I'm still cool with him, in case you were wondering.
All right, running back, Derrick Henry, 9K. I still think he's too cheap. Got his 2 catches last week early, and then didn't throw to him again, but it appears he's going to get a couple catches every week. Good matchup against Jacksonville. Unsure, early in the week, what's going to be going on with their wide receiver situation. Last week, it was kind of apparent that those guys both were going to be out all week. We'll have to wait and see on that for this week, but I still think he's too cheap, especially with McCaffrey unlikely to play. He is going to be the top option. If Dalvin Cook is fully healthy, he will definitely be up there against Detroit. So that's just something else we'll have to wait and see. Doesn't have an injury designation as of right now, but we know he left that game early against the Browns, so we'll have to wait and see on that. Outside of those guys, really tough matchup for Najee Harris against Denver, but he's seeing arguably the best usage in the NFL. This is almost McCaffrey level usage. Another 6 catches for 7 targets last week, and they just aren't moving his price up. He's still under 7K, and at some point the raw usage you're getting kind of outweighs the matchup. So I do think at 6,900, Najee Harris is in play, and you can see he is the top rated value in the projections as well.
Yeah, that's interesting on Harris. I think a lot of people will overlook him. I was actually shocked that he was pretty low owned last week after his 30-point burger last week. But if you actually looked across the board, he was somewhat lower owned. I mean, 10%. I'm glad you brought up Dalvin Cook because I was going to bring him up as a game theory pivot. I don't know what people are thinking. I never, as much as, I love the Browns, I wasn't able to watch much of the Browns. And I think Cook is a lock this week. I mean, I love that game, that over in general. But again, we need to monitor his health. But you said it best with Henry. You just got to pencil him in. I mean, he's actually getting some targets. They're going against the Urban Meyerless team. I think this is the week Henry just continues to do what he does, but he probably falls into the box twice this week, which I feel like, man, he's had some bad luck and he's still hitting value. So you got to lock in Henry. Like Ben said, you probably got to take a hard look at Cook. I have a feeling most sharps won't play Cook. I mean, again, it's early, but I just have a feeling they won't. But Cook's a great play. If not in your cash game with Henry, your second tournament lineup or third tournament lineup, whatever you're doing. You mentioned a couple of the other guys. I really do like DeAndre Swift. I mean, I know it's not a typical cash game play. I just wanted to bring it up. I like him a lot this week. He'll be one of my favorite plays of the slate. And did you mention Leonard Fournette, man? I mean, I said it pre-pod. I don't know if you said it. Did you bring him up?
I think Swift is a good call. That's another guy that's seeing a lot of usage, especially in the passing game. And he's on a bad team, so people don't like to play him. So I think that's a really good call by you. But yeah, I think Fournette is probably going to be the top value this week. If Gio Bernard's out, he's going to see more passing game work, which is kind of what we projected heading into that New England game with Bernard out. He did see 5 targets, caught 3 for 47 yards. Obviously, it's a run funnel spot against the Dolphins. He's only 5,200, so he'll probably be one of the chalky cheap guys if Gio's out. You and I were talking pre-pod, like we were talking about Damian Williams. If he's good to go with Montgomery out, but he's 5,600. Like Fournette's 400 cheaper. I think more people will look to Fournette. So I think he's probably the top cheap guy. You have Trey Sermon at 5K again. Mitchell probably will be back for this game, so we'll have to wait and see on that whole situation. But I don't know. I don't see anything in that 5K tier that I feel super good about other than Fournette as of right now.
I don't know, Ben, if you're filtered by Karma Value over there, so people on YouTube can check it out. But I'll tell you what, Fournette, I knew I wanted to play him. I know how Sam's projections portal generally works, so to speak. Before I even clicked on running backs, I knew Fournette would be up there, so to speak. But to see him second in the Karma Value is really all I need to see on a Tuesday. Like plays like this, I'm not going to stray away from. I'll probably, they're a 10-point favorite at home coming off a tough game. I feel like Fournette's a lock. Damian Williams, I guess, like maybe you pair both of those and you fade Cook. That'll be kind of, I think, the early debate for me early on this week in cash games. All right, let's go to wide receiver, Ben.
Yeah, so I think when we lead off at wide receiver here, we have to talk about Devante Adams and what to do with him. Early lean, like early in the week, is that you probably just go right back to him and play him again. The usage was still there; he just didn't score any touchdowns. We know that he's gonna dominate the targets, and still, like I feel like last season, I don't know. Someone in the comments can tell me if I'm right or wrong. I feel like he got to like 9K last year. Am I wrong in that? Because they've been holding him. Like last week, he was under 8K. Now he's up to 82. Like I feel like he was even more expensive last year, and he's seeing similar usage. So it's tough for me not to want to jam him in. So I guess early lean for me would be to plug Henry and Devante in, and then figure out the rest of my lineup, which probably won't be that hard to do considering we have a $5,700 quarterback that we feel pretty good about. At the top of receiver outside of Adams, Jefferson, great spot. Maybe not for cash, but for tournaments at least. Detroit's secondary is terrible. 7,700, I like him. DJ Moore, even in a tough matchup last week, still produced, right? Had a huge game again. Fully unlocked with Darnold at quarterback, another 8 catches on 12 targets. Tough to fade him, even though he's up to 7,500. I don't know if you like anyone else in that mid-tier, like upper 6 to 7K range, but I mean, those guys stick out. Maybe Keenan Allen feels weirdly cheap at 6,500. I know it's against the Browns, but I mean, he's just going to rack up catches at least for DraftKings PPR.
Not to keep talking about Keenan Allen, I guess I can't quite figure him out yet this year. Maybe it's a little bit of regression, or Mike Williams is, that much, getting that much more opportunity. But man, I feel like I'm going to stay away from that game unless I'm literally game stacking that in a GPP. I, and I know you know what I was saying, Ben. Like, it's hard to trust that game. I mean, that game could be an absolute shootout, or it could be 12 to freaking 9. So yes, Devante, I feel like you got to lock him in. Again, if for the YouTube fam out there, again, this is a premium product and it will update throughout the week. It's crazy when you sort by karma value, which is again basically a summarization of all of these columns, including a lot of the simulations that Sam runs on the back end. I mean, it's night and day. Look, it sticks out. We make things color coded and easy because that's how we firmly believe in a lot of, studying the data at our websites, both of them, Bet Karma and DFS Karma. Devante Adams sticks out like a sore thumb. I mean, the data tells the story. I say it every week on here. Just seeing him at 4.65, and ironically enough, I'll bring him up. T. Higgins here right below at 3.84. That's a big difference in the karma value. You don't often see it that much, especially receiver. So I will be penciling in Devante. We got a cheap Leonard Fournette. We talked about this pre-pod. That Bengals game looks interesting. I think that could be a sneaky shootout. Maybe that's a popular take at the end of the week. I don't know. I don't listen or study as much content as I used to back in the day across the industry. But you got to figure Jamar Chase will be tied down by Alexander. Again, right, Ben? You have the better analysis than me. I'm just thinking out loud and talking. And we'll probably potentially want to maybe bring it back with T. Higgins or Tyler Boyd. They're both in that 5K range. They're both projecting very high values. To me, they're going to see the slot of the field, and they have the better matchup as is, and you can have a bring back ping pong effect with Devante. What are your thoughts on one of those guys in your cash game?
Yeah, I don't mind bringing it back, like especially if you play Devontae with one of the Cincy guys. As far as like individual matchup, I'm not entirely sure yet. Like Green Bay's moved Alexander into the slot like this season quite a bit, and it's kind of like a trend. Like a lot of teams have been doing this with their good corners. Like even the Rams with Ramsey, like they've
You
put
don't
him in
think
the
he'd
slot. So
shadow Chase? You don't think
yeah,
Chase would get that respect yet?
I'll have to wait. Like we'll have to wait and see. But I think early lean probably I would lean to no.
I would love to get that update later in the week, whether your content or in the Discord chat.
Yeah, yeah. So that there's other good like plays in that tier, but all the Cincy guys are cheap, right? Like Chase 5,800,
yeah.
T Higgins if he plays is 5K, Tyler Boyd 5,300. So definitely you can find one of those guys to run back with some correlation with Adams. I like Jacoby Myers a lot at 5,600. He's yet to score a
Mhm.
touchdown. Last 2 weeks, 14 and 12 targets. Clearly, it's Mac Jones' go-to guy. Obviously, good matchup against Houston. So I really like him at that price from just a raw usage standpoint. And then for even cheaper, you can see him popping in the value score there on the projections. But Laviska Shenault at 4,800 with DJ Chark out, I think is a really good play as well.
Yeah, totally agree. I was looking at him earlier. Amari Cooper is popping yet again in the model. So he only increased $100 on DraftKings, and he looked very well last week. So I like that play a lot in cash games just on the sheer value of 6,100. There was somebody else I was looking at, Ben, I wanted to bring up. Oh, you mentioned, I think, both Minnesota receivers. I'm telling you that I want a complete Minnesota game stack, or I need Minnesota access somehow, whether it's cash games or a couple of my main tournament rosters. So I'm with you on that. Like, I mean, do not let Thielen and Jefferson go overlooked in your tournament builds if you don't, put them in your main lineup build this week. Other than that, leverage play, Ben. Yes, I'm going to go back to it. I mean, Odell, 3 touchdowns, right? I mean, 6,000. He's probably going to be 5% owned. He got a price bump. It's that 6K number. You mentioned some other guys around 6K. I bet Odell is like not owned at all. And again, that game, I just don't know. Like, I want exposure in tournaments, but I like Odell as a leverage play. Anyone else you like as leverage?
Yeah, Jalen Waddle's my leverage. I was all over him last week. Let me down. I'm doubling down. Tampa's secondary is super banged up. Mac Jones just carved him up. Obviously, he has speed. I'm going to go back to Jalen Waddle at his price. He's right in that price point where he'll be low owned because he's the same price as Chenault, and everyone will play Chenault in cash. So I like Waddle again this week for leverage.
All right, let's go to tight end.
Yeah, tight end is interesting. I don't see any like standout guy that I feel super good in the mid tier or cheap. Like obviously we don't even have Kelsey on the slate because they play Sunday night, so that hurts the spending up because I don't really want to pay 7,300 for Darren Waller. Kittle banged up per usual at 56, like not someone that you really want to play in cash games. So if you look at look at the value in the projections alone, that there's no one over a 2 value score in the projections, right? Like it's pretty barren, I would say. So you're probably gonna have to get weird at tight end. Like I think even at 5K, Noah Fant's fine again, tough matchup against Pittsburgh, but he's been seeing a ton of usage with Judy out. I'm fine with him. Any of those guys like Zach Ertz, I think you can still look at. I know he kind of like doesn't get as much run as Goddard anymore, like just in terms of like the industry and like talk, but he runs pretty much the same number of routes. He's on the field. I'm assuming Carolina's going to put up points. Like I think Sam Darnold stacks in tournaments is a good move again. So you could run that back with Ertz at 3,400. I don't know if there's anyone cheap that you like. I guess Brait, if Gronk misses again, just big team total for the Bucks is interesting, but I don't know. I might try and get up to Fant, which is something I normally don't do, but with Trey Lance there, maybe we can get up to like that 4.5 to 5K tier instead of an actual punt at tight end.
You love Fant, but
I do. I'm just biased towards Fant, probably.
You've hit with him though. That's the and I've
that's one of my guys. He always comes through for me.
Like he's hit for you a few times, definitely over the last couple of years. Yes, 4,900. Again, this is just me first glance early. Seems expensive, but it might not be towards the end of the week, especially if you want to go with the Fournette, Damian Williams type of Trey Lance build, right? You're going to have a lot of salary to do whatever. I'll tell you what, my little wisdom over the years, Ben, is I turned into the boomer. You're still the young freaking hip kid. I feel like I just don't overthink tight end ever. Like if it's a slate where I need a Kelsey and I need a Waller, yes, I will think about it. But as time's gone on, I don't want to spend time overthinking on these stupid tight ends that you can just see in our projections value, the karma value. It just looks like a barren wasteland with the color code. It's that for a reason. Like there's no real good plays. Like they're just all whatever. So I kind of like will make my lineup. This is just me. And whatever salary I kind of have left, I kind of pick a guy that I like generally more than the others. And I just feel like we're overthinking things. Like last week, I saw the chatter and the content, still obviously, me, I'm still looking at everything from afar, checking in on everything karma, but it's like there's Ingram, there's Disley, there's Tommy Tuberville. How many guys that were there last week? And I'm like, just, nobody really knows, right? So just make the best lineup and whatever fits, right?
I mean, I would assume Ingram's probably going to be pretty chalky, right? He's 3,200 is the highest over-under. People will probably want
to play. That's who I played last week, actually.
Yeah.
That's who I played last week.
So I think he's fine. I don't have any problems using him. Like, I'll probably end up using him if he's chalk. Like, it makes no sense not to use him in cash. I did want to bring up Conklin because I'm also biased towards Tyler Conklin.
You do love him.
Yeah, and that kind of fits with you. Obviously, early on, you really like Minnesota. That can be a way to get cash game exposure to Minnesota without having to, sacrifice Henry or Devante. Like I can just plug in Conklin. Obviously, it's still a good matchup. That could
be the nut call.
Yeah, I think Conklin's a good call at 35. Honestly,
he super cheap. I just filtered by karma value. I'm sure you did on the back end there for us. I mean, he projects as our fourth best value in the slate. There you go. I mean, Evan Ingram actually number 2. I actually hit pretty big and 2 weeks ago with the Minnesota stack. Yeah, they were in Seattle. And Conklin, I had it like 0.5%. I only played him because I always hear you talking about him. So thank you for that.
That's my boy.
Defense. Let's go to defense. Finish up real quick. Last thing for the folks. I know we're playing the cheap Ds every week, but anyone stick out in specific?
Yeah, Washington, man, they're really cheap. They've not been good. I mean, coming into the season, I literally thought they had one of the best defensive units in the NFL. They have not performed like such, but now they're 2,300. They're 2,300 at home against Jameis. They're going to project well. Yeah, that's probably the top cash play. For tournaments, I don't know. Do you like anything for tournaments? I mean, Cardinals against Trey Lance, definitely with everyone playing Trey Lance, that just makes sense. But
man, this used to happen in the past, but it hasn't happened, I feel like, in the last year and a half. But Millie Maker lineups would be won at times based on a defense, and it just hasn't happened much this year. Everybody's paying down. So just pay up for some defenses and build your lineup around that. I do that at times. I mean, is anyone ever going to spend 4,900 on New England? No, but you could easily see David Mills, or whatever his name is, throw 3 interceptions, 2 for touchdowns. It's just the random teams that win the Millie Maker. They had New England, at 2%. So, Tampa, Denver, all these teams are in play, I think, for leverage. It's got to pay up.
Yeah, I tried to spend up in tournaments last week with the Saints, and that failed miserably. But I do think that's a good tournament strategy.
Anything else, Ben? We covered a lot. Kept it underneath our 30 minutes for everybody, and week 5, man, we got a lot of time ahead of us. We got NBA in the horizon. Anything else?
No, I'll be doing the bigger podcast, 3-man podcast with Bales and Matt tomorrow. That'll be dropping Wednesday evening, so look for that. Like you said at the top, like the video, and leave us some comments. Like you said, you and I will get in there throughout the week and kind of chatter back and forth with you guys.
Okay. Good luck this week, guys. We'll talk to you next week. See ya.